Hi, my name is Eric Gerlach. I teach philosophy, logic, and ethics at Berkeley City College, and I have a theory I published in the Knight's Letter, the journal of the Lewis Carroll Society of North America, that I want to share with you and hope you enjoy and share with others. I have been searching Wonderland and the Looking Glass for forms of ancient and modern logic to study Carroll and how he is like Wittgenstein for many years. I was offered an intro philosophy class after I gave a talk about the Mad Tea Party and logic at the Dominican School of Philosophy and Theology, and there's a bit of that in everything I've taught since. I think that there are many ancient and modern forms of logic, Aristotle, Mill, Boole, De Morgan, and others, hidden in the fiction of Carroll, and his puzzles are often simple enough that a child could solve them. But let's ignore everything other than what I have shared with the Carroll Society. The most significant form I have found. I cannot prove that Carroll meant what he did not say, but Carroll loved puzzles, and he would leave things unsaid for others to find. Historically, the first form of Aristotle's logic, a form ignored by Boole and formal logicians who followed, the central idea of Aristotle's first work on logic, the categories, is the 10 categories, a list of 10 types of being, 10 sorts of things we can say about things and argue anything about anything at all. Aristotle's ancient forms of logic were strategies of debate, but in Carroll's day, Boole, De Morgan, and others Carroll studied were turning Aristotle's arguments into abstract algebraic mathematics, rigid forms which do not care in the slightest, like gears, pistons, and other surly mechanics, about time, space, individuals, or emotions. If Carroll used fiction to teach form, and followed Alice and forms of Aristotle through a dream about time and space that mocks universal forms of Boolean logic at an eternal, timeless Mad Tea Party, then the caterpillar himself is time, a hymn to the Mad Hatter, the Cheshire Cat as a character is space, somewhat partly visible, and the order of events of Wonderland, the cast of characters, follows the list of Aristotle's 10 categories, in the order Aristotle first himself lists them, in his categories, but in reverse, as if seen through a looking glass, like the mind which mirrors the world. Aristotle lists his 10 categories, the 10 types of things we can say about things, as substance, the material of a thing; quantity, the number or amount of a thing; quality, an aspect of a thing, like good or green; relations, the interaction of a thing with others; space, the place of a thing; time, the duration of a thing; position, the situation of a thing with others; state, the status of a thing in itself; action, what a thing does to itself or others; and passion, that moves a thing from this or to this or that action. If we turn Aristotle's own list of 10 categories backwards, starting from the lowest rather than the highest, like a text backwards in a looking glass mirror, like the Jabberwock, we have passion, action, state, position, time, space, relations, quality, quantity, and substance. This inverted list fits the order of events and characters of Wonderland somewhat wonderfully. If so, in Wonderland, the worried white rabbit is passion, the swimming mouse is action, the presiding dodo is state, the rabbit's house and task is position, the slow caterpillar is time, the Cheshire Cat with perspective is space, the tyrannical duchess is relations, the rude Mad Tea Party is quality, the queen's garden with cards is quantity, and the mock turtle who sings of soup and the king's trial of tarts is substance, or lack thereof. Space shares space and a chapter with relations in the middle of Wonderland, which is deliberately confusing, like the wig of the fish and the wig of the frog entangled right there in the text at the time it gets confusing, with the Cheshire Cat in the house of the Duchess, sharing a space and relations together. And the last few chapters are about substance of Wonderland, or lack thereof, from the mock turtle, who isn't really a turtle, to the trial of tarts, and who stole the tarts. If so, Carroll repeated this order, character by character, theme by theme, numerical chapter by chapter, almost identically, with very little change, in the order of events and characters of The Looking Glass, regardless of what Alice found there, such that the playful black kitten is passion, the running red queen of the next chapter is action, the train with passengers is state, dueling Tweedledum and Dee are position, the backwards white queen is time, sharing space with herself as the sheep in a shop, which is space, narcissistic Humpty Dumpty is poor relations, the noble Lion and Unicorn are quality, and the creative White Knight with many ideas is quantity, and finally the Queen's Banquet is substance, with guests turning into food and food turning into guests. The first chapters of both books are about passion without the satisfaction of action, the second about action without a state of destination, the third about state with confused positions, and the fourth about positions that lack relations wizened by perspective. The fifth and sixth chapters are about time, space, and relations interwoven, space mixed with relations in Wonderland, and space mixed with time in The Looking Glass. The seventh chapters are about quality of relations, the eighth about quantity and relations, with the executive fury of the Queen of Hearts mirrored by the gentle inventiveness of the White Knight, and the remaining chapters are about substance. I believe that the confusions in the middle of each book, like the multiple sets of knitting needles of the sheep and the entangled wigs, question how separate formal categories or mathematics are in the emotional, embodied, and individually lived world. Categories in mathematics can be abstract, like a dream, but individuals are always many things interwoven together. If any of this is so, Lewis Carroll wrote Alice's Adventures and The Hunting of the Snark, as I will follow, to teach children of all ages the basic forms of Aristotle's logic with memorable characters, while mocking the ancient logic of Aristotle, material with time and space, and mocking the modern logic of Boole, ideal, universal forms with no relations to particular individuals, time, or space. Carroll, mathematician and logician, taught the logical forms of Aristotle to men, women, and children, and after he wrote Alice and the Snark Hunt, he wrote amusing non-fiction books on teaching logic to children. Aristotle starts with substance, the most true form of being itself, and descends to passion, which we share with lowly beasts and untamed, uneducated children. Carroll starts with lowly, untamed passion and children, the white rabbit and black kitten, with Alice's childlike curiosity, and ends with a royal court and banquet that are confusing forms without much stable substance, mere playing cards and formal roles, as Carroll seems to think of Boolean, disembodied, dispassionate logic. Perhaps Aristotle was too much the hare and Boole too much the hatter for Carroll. If Aristotle's list fits the plotting of Alice's Adventures, it is not impossible that the Snark works like a logic puzzle, to be solved by process of elimination, as if with a modern spreadsheet, as Lewis Carroll himself had others solve his logic problems. And each, without spreadsheets of course, and each of the 10 with jobs, starting with B, could stand for an Aristotelian type of being. In his Game of Logic, Carroll listed buns, babies, beetles, and battledores, an early badminton racket, as examples of things and beings. The bellman looks like Father Time and carries a school bell for lessons. In Carroll's introduction, he says his Snark shows he is incapable of nonsense, and that this brief but instructive poem includes precise arithmetic truth and natural history, both of which apply to Aristotle's categories. If so, then the best fit is, by process of elimination, the bellman is time, the boots is place, the maker of bonnets and hoods is position, birth and death, positions in time, first and last, the barrister who dreams of the pig's trial is relations, the broker who values the goods is quality, the billiard maker who chalks his own nose is action, the banker is state, the beaver who knits lace is passion, like the white rabbit, an animal, the butcher who carves things up, dresses formally for the fight, and teaches the beaver addition is quantity, and the baker who leaves everything of substance on the beach, wears many layers, bakes wedding cakes, unions of several ingredients, doesn't lie, is of substance, unlike the mock turtle, forgets his specific name, and fades away, vanishing without a trace in the end, is substance, fleeting mortal being to a Christian like Carroll, who criticized Aristotle for being a polytheist who did not believe in an eternal afterlife, whether or not that is a thing. I will follow soon with a video about each chapter, chapter by chapter, starting with the passionate white rabbit of Wonderland, both rational and animal, a la Aristotle. Then I will proceed chapter by chapter in the Looking Glass, and then the Snark, in order. My theory has some problems. I am ignoring Sylvie and Bruno, as some Carroll scholars might not enjoy, but only some and some. And we are not infallible, formal beings, neither in thought, nor in mind, nor in deed, as Carroll seems to display and think, because all of these categories are confusingly interwoven, as Wittgenstein might say, in our minds and lives. Please let me know what you think of your theory, kindly if you can, in the comments on my site or on this video, and I will further argue that the royal court characters of Alice's Adventures, the White Rabbit, Duchess, the King and Queen of Hearts, and then the Kings and Queens of the Looking Glass, stand for Aristotle's 4 forms of proposition. All, none, some, and some not. A nice square of opposition amongst them. The central idea of the second and third books of Aristotle's Organon, his traditional collection on logic, following the categories. It is also, while Boole ignores the 10 categories, Boole and De Morgan and others base formal logic very much on Aristotle's 4 forms of proposition and perfect syllogism.